Redefining Society and Technology, a podcast about technology, cybersecurity and society, hosted by Marco Ciappelli. Let's face it, the future is now. We live in a hybrid, analog, digital society, and it's time to stop ignoring the profound impact technology has on our lives. The line between the physical and virtual worlds, it's no longer real, just a figment of our imagination. We're constantly juggling convenience, privacy, freedom, security, and even the future of humanity in a precarious balancing act. There's no better place than here, and no better time than now to reflect on our relationship with technology and redefine what society means in this new age.
Everybody, welcome to another episode of Redefining Society and Technology podcast. As you know, I always say I never get bored. There's always something to talk about. Technology goes really fast. Society maybe not as fast. And I think today is going to be a fun conversation because first of all, we have no idea what we're going to be talking about. At least we don't have a plan, which is pretty normal for me because I don't like script. Like even when I talk on stage, I'm like, I'm not going to learn anything by memory. I'm just going to freestyle. Today, I'm actually very excited because I am in Italy right now. The last few episodes I recorded here in Florence, and I'm reconnecting. It's kind of like with Italy, I would say, in the United States, actually in Pittsburgh, because I'm here with Steve Mancini, Dr. Steve Mancini, which is a Consul Honorary of Italy at Pittsburgh, and he's also a cybersecurity expert, professor. He teaches at the university. And so forgive us if we're going to throw a couple of Italian words in there. But it may happen. I can't guarantee that it will not. But anyway, Steve, I'm so happy that you woke up and you got the energy to actually catch up with me today.
Thanks, Marco. By the way, I was trying to not laugh when your intro. It's funny that I do a couple of podcasts, and I'm the same way. In conferences, I just wing it. It's just like, but you know what? It's more authentic. It comes from your heart, and instead of just having to think about what I'm going to say, I just you rely on your knowledge. If you look up some facts, and then you just speak what you believe, and then you'll be more consistent that way. I even tell my students that. I say, you practice a little bit, but don't over practice. Then it's not real. Just be yourself.
Yeah, so. It's the big debate of going to the big conference, and then there is a slideshow, a PowerPoint presentation, and you're like, well, I'm not really able to connect with the speaker. I mean, you go to TEDx, you actually it's a speaker that moves, that really train you to do certain things. And I feel like that background slide is a pain, and it's more of a promemoria, like a memory and a script for the speaker to remember what he has to say than anything else. So yeah, let's wing it. I'm cool with that.
And by the way, I've been there. I forgot what I was going to say, so I'm like, oh.
Well, it's funny is we talked the other day. We met for the first time on a call, and then now I just connected. So what are we going to talk about? I don't know. Well, cybersecurity, whatever, something like that.
Oh, wait
but I know where I want to start,
the
Steve.
Overthrow of the free world.
Exactly.
This is the wrong podcast. I thought we were going to talk about the overthrow of the free world. All right, we'll do cybersecurity.
That's not it. I mean, we could change the name of the podcast, but that's not what we're... Listen, I know where I want to start. I like to start from the beginning. Many times I'm a storyteller. I love telling story. I love origin stories, right? When you discover who somebody is. So let's start from there. Who is Steve Mancini, and how did you end up being who you are and what you do? Of course, we don't have an entire day, so keep it short.
Well,
Go.
That's a good question. So obviously, I'm born in Pittsburgh, and I always like to mention this. I started on a computer writing small little programs, including what I tried to do, little basic war dialers in the early 80s. Shortly after I saw the movie War Games. So I had a Commodore 64, I had a 300 baud modem, and I would try and learn basic programming, on the Commodore, and try and, once you saw that movie, you're like, oh, if you think Hollywood doesn't inspire to do crimes, it absolutely does. So I tried, laying around with the modem, writing war dialers, writing programs, and then I went off to the military. And in the military is where I got, I went to school for my computer science degree. I have a master's degree in software engineering. Retired. I did teach a little bit at the National Defense University on cybersecurity. So that was kind of my first foray into really in a position where I was nothing but cybersecurity. It was the National Defense University. So I did that for about 3 years, and I actually kind of managed a lab, which was my first real hands-on into what I'm going to now call script kiddie tools, the Nmap, Loftcrack, Metasploit. Oh, the tools we're still using today, by the way. So, it's only been 18 years, but why not? So I was, able to get a lot more hands-on specifically in using the tools. Then I went off to Homeland Security for a while, worked with control systems for a bunch of years and ICS cert and other things. Then I went to a nonprofit and I worked with law enforcement for about 5.5 years in a company that basically helps connect the dots for various cyber crimes and cyber enabled crimes. And there is a difference, but we would do a lot. So I learned a lot about how the bad guys work online, what are the different types of fraud, crime. Then I went back to Homeland Security in another security role. And now I have finally picking my third career, which is teaching all things cyber, which is IT, cyber, intelligence, you name it. So that's me in a nutshell.
And on top of that, because you were not busy enough, you decided to take the Honorary Consul of Italy.
Americano. So yes, I am the Honorary Italian Consul here in Pittsburgh. So I do represent the Italian government for all matters in the area. It's an appointed position, and it is recognized by the Department of State. So it's a formal position. The term honorary means you don't get paid, but otherwise you're an employee.
That's your honor.
Leave it to the Italians to give a fancy title and not pay you.
Yeah, it's like we pay you in notoriety. Like you're famous now.
In timbre, I can stamp things.
You have a walks with the ring and you seal stuff.
Oh. You're not too far off.
Yeah, I know. I'm dealing with that kind of stuff right now. Anyway.
Marque, they love the stamps. You put the stamps on the paper and then you with the timber.
Yeah, I'm renewing my passport right now. So it's been a Marca da Bollo and other things. All right. So you said something to me before we were starting that usually is not what you hear from cybersecurity expert or technology, which is, everything changed so fast. We're fast changing. There is the new invention and the new solution, the new vendor. If we want to talk cybersecurity, AI. I had to say it, so we can keep saying that many times. So you think like, well, everything is changing so fast that older people that are not in the industry, it's hard to keep up. It's very hard to keep up for the government, legislation always follow. I mean, this is another conversation we have many times. But you said nothing changed. So how about we start with that?
Thanks for joining.
Here's the boiling, the boiling pot here, all that explain.
No, that's in my humble opinion. And like I said, I will go back to the 80s. And while we didn't, quote, have the modern internet and we didn't have, graphic user interfaces, if you think about the general principles of technology, there was networking, call it modems, but there was networking. There was decentralized, computing, we'll call them mainframes. You can call them a cloud, whatever you want to call it. But the principles of IT really haven't changed that much. If you go back, let's go back to the movie War Games. What does he do? He does war dialing, so he calls up a bunch of phone numbers, which is no different than me running a Nmap scan against a network. He identifies a number that will answer that's a computer, which is no different than Nmap finding an open port. And then he tries a bunch of different passwords, which is nothing but brute force attacks. So the principles have not changed since the dawn of computers, because the truth is there's only so many ways you can do it. Now, what does change is things get faster and the graphics get better and the touch screen and now you have folding screens and because of the internet being faster, you can put more computing, in the quote cloud, which, like I said, is just a fancy word for someone else's server. So the principles, in my opinion, haven't changed. And all we're doing is we're putting more technology everywhere. But if you think about it, what is it? It's input, process, output. Everything is input, process, output. If I can manipulate the input to get it to process the way I want it to, then I can control the output. And that you can go back to the art. Remember the 90s with Frack magazine? And I don't know if you remember the famous article, Smashing the Stack for Fun and Profit. 30 years ago it was written. And he talks about how to basically do buffer overflows. 30 years later, you're still having vulnerabilities based on input. So I say nothing's changed in the matter of principles. Even the fact that if you're familiar with like OWASP, and they have their top 10, and they changed the listing a little bit and they renamed it, but ultimately, input validation. That's it. Are the developers controlling what the input is? And the fact that in the year 2025, you still have, vulnerabilities against software, SQL injection, cross-site scripting, zero-day exploits. It's all about input validation. It's all about, saying, hey, I cannot let certain input be entered. Otherwise, it will disrupt the program or the system or whatever it is. And so in that regard, nothing's changed. I do want to mention one thing, the cyber-enabled crime. So I have taught a lot of law enforcement over the years in different courses. Some of them have been like online undercover stuff. So how to operate securely online if you're doing an undercover operation. And what I've noticed is that those crimes literally, in some ways, mirror the physical crimes, and everybody knows it. And again, the technology hasn't really. We're still using, now we're going to peer-to-peer for more secure encryption. But when you think about those crimes, everybody knows what they are, like business email compromise. But yet, instead of them going down, they're going up. So now you're putting more resources towards things. You're more aware of them, but yet the crime is going up. The cost of fraud is going up. So for 20 years, security vendors and all these people have been telling you they've got the silver bullet, but yet it's getting worse. So it's the same principles of how they're operating, but instead of us being more effective at countering it, we're actually losing. So, so I asked you, I said, well, what's changed? What are the criminals doing so differently that we can't make a dent in it? And that's been my philosophy for a lot of years now, because I've just been seeing cybercrime for so long. I've been seeing breaches. Go all the way back to the OPM breach for me personally. And why I bring that up. Fun fact: I got an email that said my free credit monitoring is going to expire for the OPM breach. That was about over 10 years ago. The problem is my data doesn't expire. My name doesn't expire. My social security doesn't expire. But what happens? But again, what are we doing different? We have major breaches. What are we doing different? What is our response? I give you a year or two free credit monitoring. So to me, It's Groundhog Day.
all over again.
All
But
over
the reason why I want it, I took what you said and I'm like, I want to make the whole episode about this because you look at all of these things from the cybersecurity industry as far as the technology, the breaches. I look at it from the way we behave as human, right? Social engineering. I love to look at those things without mentioning the fact that most of the time you have some kind of, and I'm not pointing finger to the user, but I'm just saying, most of the time it is because of some psychological attack or a trick or a scam or a phishing or whatever that then we enter in the system. It reminds me, Italian grandma that I locked the house door with 5 locks, and it's like the keys are under the mat in front. The fuck, we all know that, right? So I know it sounds stupid, but that's kind of the system. You still see in TV, important office and police and that have the passport sticker on the computer. It's just crazy. So humans are still the same. We still react to social engineering. I just published a podcast with Eric O'Neill. He is a former FBI agent. He wrote a couple of books. One was actually a movie called Breach that tells the story was a spy, a counter terrorism. And his last book is exactly that. Like cybercrime now, cybercriminal, they use spy technique that were used back in the 30s, in the 40s, in the 20s, probably in the 1800s, honestly, because we're still the same. So I'm just saying, nothing changes, right. But the scale changes.
Right.
How many people you can hit with one email with AI and bots and all of that. So it's tough.
I absolutely agree with that. And we are the weakest link. We should not be allowed to use IT till we figure it out. So take it away from everyone. No, but
everybody drop the computer.
but humans are the weakest link, and they always will be the weakest link. To your point, I mean, I won't say who, but I had a family member recently who got a call from, let's just say it was not a native English speaker, okay? And they said, I think your account's been compromised. We might have your information. And they literally said something like, does your social security number have a 6 in it or something like that? And, oh my God, yes, it does. And he started.
1 out of 10, they guessed it.
Oh yeah, I mean, guys,
1 out of 9, actually.
But he actually convinced, I won't say who, but he actually convinced the relative to download and install software on their computer. I was like, oh my God, why would you do that? I mean, what would make you think that's a good idea? And again, it's an older person, to your point. So, they're just thinking, I don't know what to do. But that therein is the problem. We are still, and it's not like it's limited to older folks. It's younger folks too. And, I teach this in my class. I just said this yesterday to my students. I said, you don't realize how important your privacy is yet. I said, you're young, you don't care. You're giving all of your information away. I said, how do you think these companies are making money? They're making money off of the data that you give them. When you create a Facebook account or a Google account, what do you think they're doing with that data? How do you think they're getting so wealthy? It's not just advertising. There's an entire behind the scenes industry of data selling. Well, now I'm going to turn that around. Let's put that in a security perspective. There are so many third parties that have your data that you don't know about it, that when they get breached, now the adversary can really target you because now they have information about you that they can really customize it. So now think about what you said. Now the humans, we have these emotions, whether it's greed, whether it's, selfishness, whether it's, sympathy. That's why people always get scammed during major events like a earthquake.
Holidays too.
Right. People, they roll out the sick puppies and you donate $20 and you find out it was a scam charity. So knowing how people behave emotionally, and now I've got more detailed information about you, I can really customize my attacks. and get inside of your head, ultimately get in your head, and and get you to click on the link, open the attachment, donate the money, whatever. But I'll bring that kind of full circle now, because you mentioned I thought we weren't going to say the AI word, but we're going to say it is the latest. We would be remiss to not leverage the latest buzzword in the industry. And for those of you listening, why I said buzzword, because AI has been around. It is not new. What's new is the way it processes language much more efficiently. So that natural language processing. By the way, when I was studying AI 20-something years ago, we called it neuro-linguistic programming. So it was a little different. But let's throw the AI in.
Which, by the way, I like it a lot more than artificial intelligence.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like the term artificial intelligence at all.
But now I'll bring that full circle, because now you've developed systems that can do a better job of processing things in and out of English. So now I take that information I know about you, I identify some scam, and I say, okay, AI, write up a really nice email to John Doe or whoever about sick puppies in Tanzania, and without $20, they're all going to be, they're going to be put down. And of course, I send it out to 10,000 people, 100,000 people, because I've got my botnets that have been around for decades, still firing off spam emails. And all I need to do is get maybe 1%, just 1% of 10,000 or 100,000 to click the link. And that's it. Your computer's infected, and off we go. And so that's why I said it's nothing new. The only thing we're doing is, I think, to your point though, I think we can definitely be more effective at reaching larger audiences. You see, they used to train you with spam, and they would say things like, look for grammar errors, look for punctuation errors, stuff like that. Well, now you have programs like Grammarly, which is a good program, if you're writing a paper and you need some help checking your grammar. But now the bad guy can use it to check their emails. So everything you create in IT becomes dual use. So that's why I said the bad guys aren't going to stop using the technology, and we're just making it a little bit simpler, but we're basically doing the same thing. Generate email, pick a topic, fire off email, get people to click, somebody clicks, computer infected, launch ransomware. Here we go. Rinse, wash, rinse, repeat. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
it's kind of like,
I'm going to retire in one of those Italian towns, Marco, with no electricity. No.
There is a couple here in Tuscany. They give you money to move there, and it's actually
in
a
Tuscany,
good deal.
not
I'm
bad.
thinking about it. I'll send you the but you'll still probably have Wi-Fi and a bunch of American already living there, because it's kind of like Sting and that area, like where everybody is. But you know what? I mean, we can have an entire conversation on the imperfection and being perfect. I'm reading all this. When you situation where when you test an AI and the AI becomes realize that it's being tested, and so it dumps itself down so that it doesn't show how good it is. So in a way, I'm saying this because in a way, now that you were looking for the grammar error in the email, in the phishing email before, now you kind of want to see if there is an error to see if maybe it is human. Because if it's too perfect, it's actually the other way around. So it's kind of crazy.
For that.
Yeah. You know what? I want to talk about the students. So what age are they? College student?
College,
right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
I teach everything. I teach undergrad all the way up into doctoral, and some of the doctoral are, in their 40s and 50s, careers trying to kind of.
Right. So let's talk about the newer generation that you talk to. You mentioned privacy. I think privacy obviously has changed. It's a different concept. Identity has changed. I mean, identity is my phone now and my microchip in the ID and all of that. But for those of our generation, breaking stuff, analog, getting excited about the war games and other movies, and then you talk now to people that pretty much grew up with the smartphone. I don't know other way around. I heard a story that people don't know how to use a dial not a dial, a rotary phone. Because
Right.
like, okay, what the hell am I going to do with this? And you do the thing. How do you, I mean, what do you get from them? I mean, that is different. And then trying to say, without sounding older, like things weren't like this, but it's still the same. Even
Right.
if now you know what I'm going, like psychologically speaking, how do they see the world when you talk about cybersecurity with these people, with these kids?
So I think, I'll tell you what, I'll go back in time a little bit, and then I'll answer the question.
Yeah, go.
You remember when there was a time where businesses would not announce that they were breached because they felt it would be such a hit on their reputation.
Yeah.
So breaches were really secretive. And I remember a time when we wouldn't even say, China is behind a lot of breaches because it was classified. Now these things are so open and common that I think the fear is people have become numb to it.
Yep.
And so they don't understand the ramifications because there have been so many breaches that they don't understand the long-term impact.
Yep. Now,
the kids today, the biggest struggle I am seeing, and it's funny you say the rotary phone, and I know that this is, this is kind of just an observation on my part, but I think other people have agreed with me when I've said this. The biggest challenge is they've become so over-reliant on technology that if, the power ever did go out for a month, they would be zombies. They would not know how to survive. And I think that's the biggest fear and danger. So from a security perspective, I think this generation just shrugging their shoulders going, so what? This is all, okay, got it. Right. Okay. Anyway, that's just a part of life, right? From a just a perception reality, they're so just numb to technology. It's just become so much a part of them that they can't function without it. And like, for example, critical thinking skills, problem solving. Now you're going to throw, you got, at least before they would do their homework, it would suck. Now with ChatGPT, it's like, I know you didn't do this. I don't need a ChatGPT checker. To your point, it's written in such a way that it's like a human didn't write this. You didn't write this. You can't put two sentences together in class. And all of a sudden,
I know you. I know who you are.
Right. And now you're going to give me this perfectly written paper with no mistakes. That's kind of like just something weird about it. And that's why I said AI will never be perfect because human instinct cannot be replicated. You can deceive me at first glance, but at some point, the more experienced you get with dealing with humans, the more you're going to pick up what's the difference. But I worry about this generation because I feel like they're losing that human instinct because they haven't had to use it. They've been so, that's not every single kid, obviously, but it's a lot of them. And I go to these classes and I see these kids and they are face down in phone or on, and it's not because they're doing their homework. It's you talked about the mental aspect, the psychology of it. Look, these algorithms, these programs are designed to get you addicted. You want to talk about a security threat. That's the ultimate security threat, when I can absolutely melt your brain by just watching enough stupid videos, getting those endorphin kicks. I mean, ultimately, there's chemistry going on here. And when you get that chemistry out of balance, what are the long-term effects? The one thing we're not going to know for another 10, 20 years are, so with these people that start with phones at 8 or 9 years old and they're 40 years old and they've been scrolling through social media for 20, 30 years, how well are they going to function in society? And I think, to me, we're worried about breaches, which we should, but unless we're prepared to disconnect, that's not going to stop, because the number one way they're still getting into systems is phishing, and phishing is human. But now you're going to couple that onto there where you're going to get humans that can't problem solve in charge of your security, relying on the technology to troubleshoot the problem for them. Well, what if technology is wrong? AI is wrong. It's a lot of times it's put a lot of wrong answers out there, makes up resources. It does a lot of things that aren't correct. So this reliance on technology is really, to me, that's the ultimate security failure right there.
Yeah, you become more gullible and easier to manipulate and at scale. And then you put it together. Because I think, because people that listen to this podcast, maybe some of the expert, I hope my friends that follow me, but I'm not the cybersecurity expert. I'm more like, I look at things from societal perspective. Right. And what I think is, a lot of people don't see the matrix, right? I mean, I'm going from the 80s to the 90s, I'm going to the matrix and stuff. But the point is, once you see it, then you see it all, right? And all this connection between the selling of personal identity, personal information, the cross-reference, even if you think you're hiding, you're not hiding, and everything else, and how important it is to be able to think without the computer, don't rely too much on that. It all comes down to what makes us human, right? And I think that there was a couple of sci-fi movies back in the days where one, I don't remember the name, but it simulates an hypothesis where the computer, take over everything, do everything with computer, and then at a certain point the computer don't work anymore. And factories stop, and manufacturers stop, the government stop, and we're like zombies, like right. You said. So we forget how to be human, and that's right. That's the key, right? And I think cybersecurity is that too. I mean, you pinpointed that. Like, that's the big deal. Like, breaches are gonna be, it's inevitable, it's gonna happen. You're never 100% safe, but you can scale. It's just tech But losing the humanity, that's the ultimate breach.
Right. Yeah, right. That's right. Breaching the mind. But I do think that every time you come up with a technology, you have to just assume the bad guys using the same technology, and in some cases they may be more creative in using the technology. So that's why I said I don't think we're gonna technology our way out of this problem. We're just not. We've gone too fast into immersion of technology. I mean, we're trying to wrap everything we do in technology, and it really is stealing our humanity. And part of our humanity is the ability to think and reason. I love it when people talk about the ancient cultures as if they were so dumb and ignorant. I've said it before, I'll say it again. They were 1,000 times smarter than us because they had nothing but this. They had pieces of parchment, paper, and mind, and they wrote it down, and they problem solved, and they thought about things, and they recorded it, and they taught, and they learned. They didn't have anything to help them. So I would venture to say that as technology gets more ingrained in a fun kind of ironic kind of, we're getting dumber. In fact, I always call my smartphone my dumb phone because it just makes you dumber. It becomes your brain, and what does that mean? Then what happens to your brain then? So, Good luck, America. Good luck, world.
No, good luck, world. I mean, wherever you go, that's what it is. But the learning experience to it, I think it's changed so much. I mean, now that I want to go back, and although I do love libraries and bookstores, and I like to flip, but I also like the idea that every question I have, I'm a very curious person. I can open my phone, and that's my Library of Alexandria or wherever the hell it is, and I can look for the answer. But you also need to look for different kind of answers. You can't just take what's given to you. It could be an hallucination of AI, which definitely happened. The other one, it could be just one side of the answer.
Well, right? Definitely proven that those algorithms are biased.
Exactly. So when you used to have to take 3 books in order to find the answer to what you needed, or read 3 newspapers in order to find that answer and made up your mind, then you're really using your critical thinking. And I agree with you, that's what we're missing now. And I honestly don't know how, I want to finish with a positive thought about this, and trust me, there's great advancement in medicine, AI. I love tunnel AI. I like AI, not the general one or the system, but the one that is trained to solve a problem, and You can
There's good
really
in
make,
technology,
right?
There is good in technology.
But I feel like we're still trying to sell this easy button. For anything we do technology, all the easy buttons, fuck that. Don't worry about that. Just click the button.
Right.
And that's where we lose our humanity. So
and that's
I
the
don't
laziness
know.
that it's targeting. It's targeting the laziness because people don't want to do it. They don't feel like think. It's funny. As the honorary consul, I get so many people that come into my office and ask questions, and the answer is right there on the website, or they call me, they email. And you know what it is? They just don't want to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to think. I don't want to read it. Just tell me what I got to do. It's like,
yeah.
Come on, think for yourself.
Yeah.
But
is there anything we can do about it?
Well,
if you had a magic wand or
I think
change something.
Well, I think it's a question of, on a larger scale, humans have to decide, how much they want technology a part of their life. Parents that are jamming a cell phone in their kids' hands at age 6 probably ought to rethink that position. Maybe when you're 15, 16 years old, but I think it does start there. How much do you want to get your kid hooked on that stuff, and what age? And again, it becomes laziness. The old cell phone was TV. Stick the kids in front of the TV and they watch TV. And they would sit there, and that was the babysitter. Now the smartphone is the babysitter. And I think that we've got to get out of that mindset, because making people lazy in front of the TV didn't work. You can see that for a lot of reasons. And now you're doing the same thing with cell phones, but maybe even worse, because now the person on the other end of that cell phone can be a human that's targeting your child. And we, I don't even want to go down that dark road, but that happens a lot.
Yeah.
So, I think that humans in general have to decide, how soon do we want to put technology in front of this next generation? I also think that the schools need to start limiting technology. This notion that somehow if we don't, quote, teach technology, listen, these students know more about technology than most of the professors in the university. You're not teaching them something they don't know. They're probably going to teach you about apps and phones, but that's really what you're talking about. What's the latest app that does this? But I think, in fact, I've had to do it in a lot of classes. I go back to paper and pencil tests because I know they're cheating. I know they're relying on technology. So I say, screw it. We're going to go back old school. You're going to study it. I don't care how you study it, but you better come in here knowing the answer. Because if you don't know the answer up here, I don't want to know if the computer knows the answer. I want to know if you know the answer. But if you don't do it, you don't do well. And I think schools need to go back to paper and pencil for testing. Teachers are getting lazy. This is the generation that was raised on TV, and they need to go back to teaching. They need to get them back to paper and pencil. And I hate to say it, even in some cases, books, because I think there is something to be said about being able to touch a book, open it, and read it versus just staring at a screen while you write.
You memorize more.
Absolutely.
Because there is a physical act to doing that.
The tinsel of the feeling of the paper and reading it, that's a human thing. But I think staring in front of a computer screen, besides not being good for your eyes, is just something's missing there. It's so I don't know what the word, but I hate to say it, but it's very inhuman. And so I like the idea of getting them back in books, paper, pencil. And I think don't jam technology in their face at a young age. Let them learn how to think, how to read, how to reason. And then later on, when they're older and understand how to have those, skills, now they'll understand how to leverage technology as a tool instead of technology being a replacement, which is exactly what we're doing, is we're replacing your brain with what you can find on some system that was designed by someone else who, by the way, is flawed, and the information is not perfect. And, oh, by the way, proven time and time again, the information is biased. AI is only as good as the algorithm and the training sets. So to your point, I mean, I like the idea that we can train it to do, basic tasks, whether it's, preparing a document for review, whether it's troubleshooting my car, maybe basic, you go to, you're not feeling good, a doctor can use it to look for some immediate symptoms. Like those are good uses of AI. But, write me a Python program for my homework is not a good use for AI, but that's what they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good luck.
Well, yeah. Well, and those people know on my podcast, I never want to come up with answers. I mean, it's more about coming up with more questions than when they started. So if somebody now is
the biggest one.
Yeah. Somebody now is thinking a little bit deeper on the thing that we talked about, and I think it's clear. Neither me or you are against technology, but right. the idea is it's a tool, and you need to treat it that way, right? So I use it a ton. I do video. I do my creative writing with it. I don't let it write my stuff because it sucks. I mean, if you think what is writing is good, you're not a good writer. Change, take another career. But for brainstorming, giving me some ideas, and then you take it over. It's kind of like being an art director, right? Mm-hmm. You give an idea, you see where it goes, then you finalize the thing. But rely 100% on that when your brain is still not there. I mean, we're missing out of humanity. So anyway, there was a good conversation. We ramble a lot, but I think we got some good point out of it. Talk about cybersecurity, about society, psychology, your teaching, and the new generation. And we went back into the rotary phone and war games. So that's all good to me. We didn't touch on music, but maybe we'll do that another time. So I want to thank you for this. You're welcome to come back anytime. I had a good time, and we'll stay in touch. We'll see what else we can do together. And I hope everybody stay tuned. I'll put the links to your LinkedIn page, and people can get in touch with you and your production company and so on. And that's it. I'll probably see you back somewhere when I'm in the US, or you get your ass here. And you know the language. They're not going to say not to you. I'm hoping to turn this year, actually. Some more. Yeah. I'm finishing up the other documentary, and I'm hoping to show it in December. In fact, I'm going to be having a call on that soon for dates. So hopefully cool. Well, maybe when you do that, you come back with me, and I have another podcast. I talk about storytelling. So there you go. We got another excuse to have another Marco.
Grazie.
Va bene. Okay, and everybody stay tuned, subscribe, share, and alla prossima, Steve.
Grazie, Marco. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.